The first time Trent Vale tried to erase me, he did it with a laser pointer. He stood at the front of the conference room, clicking through a deck called Project Clean Slate, as if a new title could disinfect old lies. On the wall behind him was a company timeline, bright icons and smug arrows marching toward the future. Our first decade was reduced to one gray box labeled Pre-Modern Era. Then Trent squinted at the screen and said, "Can someone remove that founder relic from the lobby feed? It distracts clients." He did not say my name. He did not need to. I was seated by the window, quietly taking notes, wearing a plain cardigan, and the expression of a woman who has survived too many meetings to be impressed by animations. Around the table, executives shifted like guilty children. Caleb Rourke, our CEO and my former protege, stared at his laptop as if it contained a trapdoor. The lobby feed was the video wall in reception, looping photos from our early days. One of them was me, sleeves rolled up, holding a marker like a weapon. I built Halcyon metrics in a rented storage unit beside a tire shop. The photo was proof. Proof is inconvenient when people are selling a new story. Trent smiled like a man offering kindness to furniture. "Nora can handle it. She is great with admin stuff." Admin stuff. 4 syllables that taste like rust. I smiled back. Not sweet, measured. The kind that says, "I heard you, and I am filing it under evidence." Trent kept talking, a man inflated by buzzwords. He promised lighter operations, cleaner governance, and a brand reset called Vivid Halo. He called it a rebirth. I called it a costume change for a company that still had my fingerprints on its bones. Caleb finally looked up, met my eyes for half a second, then looked away. That was the new pattern. After the meeting, the room emptied fast. I walked to reception and watched the video wall loop. There I was again, the founder relic, blinking from the past. I had not been pushed out because I was weak. I stepped back after surgery, yes, but I also stepped sideways, into the shadows where power collects dust and waits. I never sold my shares. I placed them inside a quiet structure called the Aurora Trust, a name so boring it could put a shark to sleep. The board signed off years ago because they thought it was paperwork, not a trap. Back in my office, I opened a drawer and pulled out a black notebook. On the first page was one word: witness. I dialed my attorney, Mara Finch. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me someone finally made it worth my hour." "They did," I said. "Bring the storm binder." "Quiet or theatrical?" she asked. "Start quiet," I said. "Let them get comfortable. Then we make the room remember who built the table." Outside my window, Trent crossed the parking lot, talking into his phone like a man announcing victory. He did not know I had just moved my first piece, and I play a long game. The next week, I became the most useful ghost in the building. Trent loved that I did not challenge him. He loved that I nodded while he renamed departments like he was rearranging furniture in a rented condo. He started inviting me to meetings only when he needed someone to print packets or reserve rooms, as if my entire brain was a stapler with legs. I let him believe it. Underestimation is free camouflage. Meanwhile, the people who actually kept Halcyon metrics alive still talked to me. Engineers paused by my door to vent. Analysts left sticky notes on my keyboard. Even the security guard, Leon, told me which executives started arriving early and leaving late, a polite way of saying, "Who is plotting?" On Tuesday, a project manager named Tessa cornered me near the snack bar. "They booked the war room for Friday night," she whispered. "Trent told me to label it a vendor review." Friday came. I stayed late. At 8:45, the hallway emptied, and the war room door clicked shut. I stood outside the frosted glass and listened. I did not need every sentence, only the rhythm, laughter, agreement, the occasional sharp hush when someone said something too honest. At 9:10, Leon wandered by and nodded toward the supply closet. The cleaning crew will not be up here for an hour, he said. The closet held a spare access badge in a lockbox, meant for emergencies. I had signed that policy myself, years ago. I borrowed the badge, waited, then slipped inside the war room after they left. A glossy folder sat on the table like a forgotten confession. The cover read, Horizon Purge Plan, Draft 1.3. I read it under my desk lamp. It was not just layoffs. It was identity theft. Phase 1. Buy out minor shareholders under the banner of simplification. Phase 2. Introduce a new stock class called Halo Prime to dilute any inactive holdings. Phase 3. Rebrand legacy stakeholders as legacy noise and move them into a council with no vote. They had even written the press language, fresh leadership, modern governance, founder era complete. At the bottom of page 9 was a chart titled Stakeholder Risk. My name was there, in small font, categorized as symbolic asset. Next to it, mitigate by limiting access and controlling narrative. Symbolic asset. Like a trophy. Like an antique. I texted Mara Finch a photo of the cover. Her reply came fast. This is not strategy. This is conspiracy. Good, I wrote back. I like it when people put their crimes in bullet points. I copied everything, highlighted names, and circled the section where Halo Prime required board approval. Then I opened our bylaws and traced the clauses Trent clearly never bothered to read. Under the Aurora Trust, my shares were not inactive. They were quiet. Quiet is different. Near midnight, I locked the folder in my safe and wrote 3 names on a legal pad. 3 early investors who still remembered the storage unit beside the tire shop. People who did not clap for slogans. If Trent wanted to purge the past, he was about to meet the past in person. By Monday, Trent was parading through the office like a mascot for his own ambition. He handed out branded notebooks that said Vivid Halo, as if a logo could compensate for a lack of ethics. He scheduled an investor showcase called the Glass Harbor Summit and insisted it be held in a hotel ballroom with chandeliers. He said investors liked sparkle. I agreed. Sparkle makes it easier to hide the knives. I invited Caleb to breakfast. He chose a rooftop cafe and arrived 10 minutes late, already apologizing with the polished charm he used when turning bad news into a speech. He asked how I felt about change. Change is fine, I said. Betrayal is a different flavor. Caleb blinked. Nora, you are taking this personally. I am taking it accurately, I said. Trent is building a dilution scheme. You signed the board calendar for his war room meeting. You laughed when he called me admin stuff. His face tightened, then smoothed. Smoothing was his favorite skill. Trent is helping us scale. You stepped back. You wanted rest. I wanted recovery, I said. Rest is what people do when they have nothing to protect. He leaned forward. Investors do not care about founders. They care about the story we tell now. There it was, the crack, the fear underneath the polish, being forgotten. I nodded like he had said something wise. I paid for my coffee. I left him staring at the skyline like it owed him a legacy. Back at the office, I called the 3 people who still remembered the storage unit beside the tire shop. Victor Hale answered first. Ex-logistics officer, seed investor, allergic to nonsense. Someone dying? He asked. Not yet, I said. Someone is trying to steal the company in a suit. I want you in the room when I stop it. A pause, then a low laugh. Send me the packet. Priya Chen was next, a builder who treated numbers like truth, not decoration. She listened, then said, They are trying to erase your voting power. They are trying, I said. They will fail, she said, and I heard her keyboard start clicking. Dorian Knox replied with one sentence. Use my name and tell me where to sit. Within 24 hours, Mara Finch had 3 signed endorsements, time-stamped and clean. She called me that night. If you trigger the founder override clause, you can suspend executive authority with 2 legacy signatures, she said. You have 3. That is extra. I approve of extra. Now we need a stage, I said. The summit is your stage, she replied. That night, I logged into the summit planning portal. The system still recognized my master key because I designed it that way. I did not cancel the event. I rewrote it. I replaced Trent's keynote with a 15-minute block labeled Special Executive Review. I removed the consultant panel and inserted board continuity session. I added Victor, Priya, and Dorian to the guest list as voting authorities. Then I locked the agenda as final and marked it for printing. In the morning, an assistant would open the file, assume it was approved, and send it to the hotel. By the time Trent noticed, the room would already be set. Revenge does not always require fireworks. Sometimes it is a calendar update with perfect timing. And I had perfect timing. The Glass Harbor Summit smelled like money that wanted to be admired. Crystal glasses sparkled under chandeliers. A jazz trio played near the bar. Banners promised, "Tomorrow begins here," which meant nothing and cost plenty. Trent stood near the stage, sleeves rolled to signal charm, wristwatch shining to signal power. Caleb worked the room with practiced smiles and soft handshakes. He avoided my gaze. Trent did not even register me. He walked past my chair as if I was part of the upholstery. Victor sat 3 rows back, suit simple, eyes sharp. Priya had a tablet on her lap, and the calm expression of someone about to solve a problem permanently. Dorian leaned back, sipping his drink like a judge waiting for closing arguments. The lights dimmed. Caleb took the stage, thanked everyone for believing in our vision, and introduced Trent like he was a cure. Trent stepped forward like he was collecting applause as a salary. Behind him, the screen showed a mountain at sunrise. He began with courage, pivoted into charts, then into promises. He used the word synergy so often that even the chandelier looked tired. When someone asked about governance, Trent smiled. We will modernize oversight and streamline ownership. Legacy structures are heavy. Then he clicked to a slide titled Legacy Stakeholder Optimization. The bullets were careful, quiet, surgical. The purge plan, polished for daylight. He glanced toward the back and added with a smirk, implementation will be led by executive consensus, with support from our administrative resources. Nora will help keep the calendars clean. A few people laughed. Caleb chuckled, small and breathy, like a man trying to pretend he did not hear his own downfall begin. That laugh snapped the last thread. I stood, lifted my briefcase, and walked down the aisle. My heels hit the floor with 3 deliberate thuds, each one stealing a bit of oxygen from the room. Conversations died. Heads turned. Trent faltered mid-sentence. Is everything okay? He asked, still smiling. I reached the front table and set my briefcase down with care. I looked at Trent, then at Caleb, then at the investors. Your presentation ends here, I said. Trent laughed, but it broke in the middle. Excuse me? I opened the briefcase and placed a leather binder on the table. The cover made a quiet, final sound when it touched the wood. First, the Aurora Trust disclosure, tracing majority voting rights to me, page by page. Second, the founder override clause signed years ago by Caleb. Third, endorsements from Victor, Priya, and Dorian, confirming quorum and authority. Fourth, the Horizon Purge Plan, with Trent's own title page visible, like a confession left under bright light. The room froze. Caleb went pale, then grayer, like someone had unplugged him. Trent stared, blinking hard, as if his eyes could bargain with reality. Mara Finch rose from her seat, calm as a metronome. Effective immediately, she said. Executive authority is suspended under Founder Clause. Mr. Vale, your advisory contract is terminated, your access is revoked, security is standing by. Trent opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I leaned in just enough for him to hear. You wanted to clean the story. Congratulations. We are starting with you. Silence filled the ballroom, heavy and absolute. Trent tried to laugh it off. This is outrageous. You cannot just walk in with paperwork and hijack an event. Mara Finch did not blink. We are enforcing governing documents you ignored. Victor stood, hands in his pockets. I invested in a company, not a costume party. Sit down. Priya tapped her tablet once. The screen behind Trent switched from sunrise to a slide labeled Contract Risk. Your Halo Prime plan would trigger a breach review on our transit analytics contract, she said. That contract pays for half of our runway. You were about to light money on fire and call it innovation. Dorian raised his glass. This is done. Trent turned to Caleb as if Caleb could save him. Caleb looked like a man trying to swallow a brick. I faced the room. I did not come here to perform. I came here to correct. Halcyon Metrics does not run on theft. Then I looked at Caleb. You let him call me admin stuff. You laughed when he tried to erase the founder. You approved meetings designed to dismantle the people who carried this company before it could afford chandeliers. Caleb stood, voice thin. I was trying to keep investors calm. Trent promised results. Integrity is the only result that lasts, I said. Security arrived. 2 staff members approached Trent. He tried to protest, but his words had lost their audience. He was escorted out past the banners and gift bags, finally understanding that sparkle does not equal power. At the doors, he looked back at me with fear. I gave him a small, measured smile. Welcome to consequences. We convened the board session in a smaller room without music, just a table and truth. Victor and Priya confirmed the founder clause trigger. Dorian confirmed the quorum. Mara recorded every motion like a metronome. Caleb was formally relieved of executive authority pending review. He did not argue. He could not. His silence was the sound of a myth collapsing. That afternoon we issued a statement. Leadership realigned, governance strengthened, strategic review underway. No gossip, no theatrics, just facts. Then came my favorite part. Mara handed Trent a final notice with a clawback provision. His fees had been routed through a vendor channel he recommended, with markup that violated his own contract terms. The money would be recovered. The Horizon Purge plan was also forwarded to regulators as evidence of attempted shareholder manipulation. Trent would spend the next year explaining bullet points to people who do not laugh. That evening, Caleb asked for a private meeting. He stood in my doorway like a teenager caught stealing. I thought you were done, he said. I was quiet, I replied. You confused quiet with gone. He swallowed. What happens now? I looked at the old photo on my shelf, the one Trent wanted removed. Now we rebuild trust, and we stop hiring men who mistake a slide deck for a spine. As he left, the lobby feed kept looping, my younger self still holding that marker like a weapon. This time nobody asked to turn it off.